Welcome back, everybody, to the Daily Racing Show here at RacePlazaMedia. My name is Milan. This is...
Yeah, Jesus, that was a lot of energy going right into it.
I got coffee in me. I got
That is-
coffee.
That's very true.
Let's play the intro and we'll talk about some...
AMA Supercross.
Play the intro. All right, so today was the AMA Supercross in
Philadelphia.
Philly.
Yes.
Let's go. So it was a little bit earlier than usual.
Yes.
So that meant that I was still at work when the heats were happening.
Correct.
I showed up when the last chance qualifier started.
Yes.
So you tell us about the heats.
Yes, so the heats, I mean, overall today was absolutely insane. It was
peak.
peak racing.
To be honest, this is exactly what Hayden Deegan said in his
Yes.
post-race interview. If after this race you're not a Supercross fan, then you're sleeping on Supercross.
Oh, seriously, 100%. I mean, if you've not watched it yet, definitely go back. As per usual, if you're in the US, you can watch it on Peacock. And it was from the beginning, every single heat race was pretty much insanity. So just to summarize, I wrote down some notes because it was wild. So the first 450 heat race, it was with Jet Lawrence was in it, and Cooper Webb was in it. And I mean, half of the
Sorry,
team.
we want to say also as a reminder, in case you haven't watched our racing news video, Ken Roxon as well as Cameron McAdoo. So Ken Roxon races in 450 SX. He's out for the remainder of the season, as well as Cameron McAdoo is also out for the remainder of the season.
Along with many others.
Yes.
Great way to start the video on a downer, Milan.
I know. I just wanted to bring that up real quick.
For sure. I mean, yeah, so we're definitely missing some big names. There's been kind of falling out throughout the season. And of course, our heart is broken with, especially with Ken, but also with McAdoo, because he was
also battling for the championship.
Exactly, because we thought he was potentially going to win his championship. But anyways, so 450 heat, the first round, the first 450 heat, Jet immediately went down. He didn't even make it around the fourth corner and he was down. So he started at the back of the track.
Was he like swamped?
I mean, it was just as usual. It gets crowded and then he kind of got stuck. I don't think it was really anybody's fault. And then he fell down. I think one or two others maybe got kind of stopped as well, but he was immediately at the back of the pack. But that does not stop a Jet Lawrence because he ended up coming in. What place did he come in? I think in fourth. Yeah, exactly. So the final result for the 450 heat, the first one, was Eli Tomac, which I was very happy about. He almost rode it from the beginning of the heat to the end. There was a little bit of overtaking at the beginning. I'm not sure if he got the whole shot because he did pass somebody.
This is an international symbol for whole shot, because I was like, the only word I had in my mind was hot shot.
No,
it's not
no,
hot shot.
not hot shot.
So I'm just gonna signal you whole shot.
But yeah, so I'm not 100% sure if he had gotten it, because I know he did some overtaking at the beginning, but then for most of the heat, he was in the front. Then Cooper Webb came in second. Barsha, or one of our sneaky snacks, he came in third, and then Jet Lawrence made it all the way from 20th. He drove all the way up to fourth. I know people were complaining in the comments on the socials, what I've seen, that they were a little bit upset that Jet was mostly covered during the heat race, but I mean,
it's also if you do a lot of overtaking, of course people's eyes are going to be on that.
Exactly. And then Eli, like, yes, of course I want to watch Eli because he's amazing and he was in the lead, but he didn't have to do much defending or overtaking because I think his lead was by like 1 or 2 seconds, so it was not like very contentious.
I mean, it's kind of like with Max Verstappen. Like, you don't see him in an F1 race because he's kind of racing by himself.
Exactly.
And, like, there's no camera really, only when he crosses the finish line, really. And that was also kind of like, I don't want to give away the main event result just yet, but we didn't see really any action from that person either who won.
Yeah.
Because, because
there's so much other things that happened. But yeah, so that was already exciting. Then in the second 450 heat, Chase Sexton almost immediately went down. He didn't make it up quite as far as Jet. He ended up, I believe, coming in 7th, which was still good.
Good enough to not go through LCQ.
Exactly. LCQ, last chance. No, yeah, you're right. LCQ.
Lucky losers.
LL.
LL.
But then Anderson, Jason Anderson came in first. He won his heat.
Our boy today had a really good day.
Yeah, he had such a great day.
Yeah.
And it was also just nice to see because he also was talking about it. Had mid-season, he had like kind of like a lull.
Slump, yeah.
Exactly. So it's nice to see him back because he started so strong.
Yeah.
Remember, he was on the podium and then he had this little kerfuffle with Jet Lawrence at the beginning of the season. And that's kind of when we learned a little bit more about Jason Anderson and found out that he's just a really cool dude. And
he's a cool dude. Yeah. And his wife and his daughter were at the race. So it's always awesome if you have a great race and family's there to watch
witness
you.
It. Yeah. Speaking of family, so in the 250 SX, so we were with the East Coast boys again this week. Of course, as you mentioned, our boy Cameron McAdoo is not around anymore, unfortunately. However, there's still a lot of fighting for the championship still going on, especially between Tom Vial and Hayden Deegan. So in the first 250 heat, we had Seth Hammaker, who is a Philly native. He won his heat, and it was so exciting to see just him in front of his home crowd being able to win that. So that was amazing. And then he won it ahead of Hayden Deegan, which was also exciting because he did have to do quite a bit of defending at the end. It was getting quite close, but he was able to defend himself. And then also in the second 250 heat, we had Jalek Swoll with the Triumph, a brand new bike this season. He won his heat also, which was nice to see because I feel like, and also the commentators were saying he has so much potential.
He does, yes.
But it just hasn't been... The numbers haven't been adding up for him this season. So it's so nice to see him. And he was, of course, so thrilled. And he was able to defend his win to Tom Vial, which was also exciting.
That's big because Tom had he's fighting for the championship.
Exactly.
So that's a huge guy that you're keeping behind you.
So, I mean, like we said, both of the heats were just or all four of the heats from both categories were just so exciting. And I feel like it set the tone for today's races. We had then, of course, we had the last chance qualifiers, which were not, well, the 450 wasn't quite as chaotic. Yeah, exactly. Justin Cooper, he fell in his heat, so he had to go through the last chance qualifier, which he won.
I think it was kind of like easy breezy,
exactly.
As easy breezy as an extra race can be.
I know, seriously, it must be so exhausting to go through that.
100%.
But then the 250 last chance qualifier was immediate chaos. Right from the get-go, there was a bunch of people crashed in at the whole shot before that, and then it was just chaos, and then Munoz won, which great for him. Hasn't been on my radar much this season. There's so many other people's that been, but then of course we've lost a lot of people throughout the season already. So
due to injury,
sorry, due to injury. So our main people had already made it into the main event, which is kind of. It's nice to see now or pay attention to maybe some others that you wouldn't normally.
Sometimes I will say it's a little heartbreaking that you see these guys fighting for this top 4 spots to make it into the heat, and then when they're in the heat, they're like 18th.
Yeah.
It's always a little heartbraking.
Oh, when they're in the main event then?
When they're then in the main event, then they're all of a sudden they're like in the back of the. I was like, man, you were doing so well. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
I
but
wish you would be able to ride on the front.
But it's just so shows
so
how highly competitive it is. Yeah, exactly.
And it's also like something really, really interesting, especially in Supercross. We've talked about this a few times now that like in Formula 1, if you have like a 2-second gap or something like that, that's quite a bit, right? Or 3 seconds. But if you're in Supercross a second or 2 seconds behind, that's just you having a better whoop section. That is you taking a triple instead of a double. So it's kind of cool how it really does stay so competitive.
Yes.
Like it's really we talk about this all the time, and it's lame to repeat it so many times, but it's just like you don't know until the very end, because like we saw that in the 450 main event, like something happened in the last
we'll talk about it now.
We'll get to that in just a second.
Even in the 250. So let's just dive right into it.
The 250,
250 first. We're trying our best to be organized, guys. Yeah. Try to stay on track.
Yes.
So the 250. So we have Tom Vial and Hayden Deegan competing those are the two big competitors for the overall championship going into the 250 East Coast race.
Correct. And both of them actually bad start. Both of them were not even top 10 after their start.
No.
I think Tom was like 11 and then Hayden was like 13 or 12, something like that. So they were far back, so they had to fight their way to the front. And then we had Seth Hamaker, so the Philly native,
hometown,
in the front.
Yes.
And then we had Jalik Swole, and then we had also Max Anstey. So it was actually Seth, was Max, and then it was Jalik.
Yes.
And then it was kind of cool to see Max Anstey in the front again, because he actually had, at the beginning of the season, he had the red badge, right? He was leading the championship. Then he had
then there were some issues with the bike,
and then it took him out of the competition. And then so now they were finally able to put the bike back together. It's also really nice because they're not a big team. They're not as affluent probably as other teams. So it's really cool to see him fighting in the front. And then, it is unfortunate, but he then did make the pass on Seth Hamaker. And then so it was Max in the front, and he kind of he was just like, I'm out. And he just took off.
Yeah, I mean, it did took quite a minute until he was able to pass. But then, Max was just like, this is...
It's like, I'm not getting involved. Whatever you guys are going to start doing in the back. And it got wild.
And then it got wild. So it was literally 39 seconds to go. So the race was almost over. And then Jalik and Seth just crashed together. I believe, and I feel like a lot of people will agree.
I think that, everyone agrees with that.
It was Jalik's fault. He went into Seth's racing line, and they crashed together, both down. So that meant also that now Tom Vial and Hayden Deegan were suddenly on the podium.
Well, no, there was Pierce Brown. Sneaky Snack was actually in
I forgot
fourth
that
place.
Heartbreak. Yes.
So Jalik ended up taking out Seth, which was so unfortunate, because I could understand, Jalik is I think this was probably a newer position that he was in. He was on podium, maybe potentially getting second place, right? And so you might get a little greedy, and so he was too fast, and he literally just his bike went almost underneath Seth's, and then they both flipped over, and it ruined both of their races. I think they ended up coming 7th and 8th respectively. But it's so unfortunate, especially for Seth, because he was the guy who you would have liked to see on the podium out of everyone in your hometown,
Especially because they hadn't raced in Philly since the one and only doubleheader event that they had there in 1980. So it's been a long time. So it was nice to have a little homecoming for him. But so that was definitely heartbreaking. And then by that time, of course, we had Tom and Hayden have worked through the crowds. They've done a lot of beautiful overtaking. There was a lot of, Hayden was constantly on Tom's back, but then Tom was able to pass different people. They had a person behind him, but then of course Deegan is not bad, so he caught up with him really, really fast. So there was a lot of action happening there. But then of course
Pierce Brown?
No, it's yes, I forgot that he is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Pierce Brown, he ended up messing up one of his jumps, and he actually had a really, really bad fall.
Yeah, it was the last lap too. He had just jumped through the final jump going into the last lap.
Which is so unfortunate because he's also Mr. Consistent,
He
has
been so consistent. No, you're totally fine. Because, he has been so consistent. That's why he's been our sneaky snack number one, because he's always up there, and he had a lot of championship points as well. Last weekend, he didn't have a good weekend either, or the last time they raced. So that already hurt him for the points. And then this time he had cross-rutted, and he fell in between the two tracks. And then his bike landed on the other track, almost hitting another rider. So it was wild.
So unfortunate, because it would have been nice to see him on the podium, because that would have then maybe made the championship even more exciting. But then that ended up, the end result was Max Anstey in first place, Tom Vial second, and Hayden Deegan in third. Which means that in the overall standing, we still have Tom Vial in the front, and he's up now 15 points to Hayden Deegan. So they have one more event, which is also kind of cool, that they're gonna go into the finale, the last race, and we still have a battle for the championship. That's really, really awesome.
I mean, I feel like a lot needs to happen there has to be quite a gap between Tom and Hayden for Hayden to still grab it, but anything is possible. I mean, we've been seeing it. You don't know what can happen during the last race.
I just saw that Hayden's from Temecula.
Temecula. Oh, yeah.
You think he eats his steak extra well? This is an SNL reference. You might not get that. I didn't know that he was a California native.
Oh, yeah. No. He's a California native.
Hell yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I'm not saying like I want something bad to happen to Tom, right? But I hope it will stay like a good battle. But
interesting
Tom
battle for sure.
Would have to he would have to place quite low, and I think Deegan would have to win it.
Yeah.
For him to win the overall championship.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it was an amazing race. I'm looking forward to the last race for the East Coast boys. I do also want to give a shout out to Cody Schock because he got his contract extension for 3 years.
Hell yeah, mate.
So hopefully that will go well for him and he will stay healthy and keep riding because he's been doing well. He's 4th overall in the championship. So
he's also one of those sneaky snacks.
Yeah, definitely. So it's been I'm very excited for him. So, are we ready to move on to the 450?
450. What a wild race.
Yes.
So, I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
So, Jed Lawrence won. However, it happened exactly what we talked about that you cannot let Jed do.
Yes.
You cannot let Jed get away in the front because once he's in the front, he will just drive away.
Yeah.
Because he's so incredibly fast. I'm sure it was also like a correlation speed and age that he's still young, you know.
Yeah, but I mean it's also like he is in the front and then he has no traffic in front of him, so he can just
until like the lappers
until towards the end, but then so he has several minutes and many laps of just like free.
Yeah,
like
he's just like going he's increasing the distance. Webb was after so Jed got the whole shot and then you see whole shot. I do it subconsciously too. And then Cooper Webb, so going into the final into the main race, Cooper Webb and Jed Lawrence had the same amount of points in the championship, which is 161.
I don't know, but they were tied, which was already incredible and also really exciting.
Yeah, especially with like 2 more races to go.
Yes.
But Jed, he got the whole shot, and then again. And then Cooper was in 2nd place, and then there was a little bit of a distance between. For a while there was 2.7 seconds, and then Cooper started falling off.
Yeah.
And then our boy Chase was just like, listen guys, I'm in a rush.
It's redemption time.
It's redemption time. And then Chase had a bad start. And then he rode all the way from, I think he was like maybe in 10th or whatever.
I don't remember, to be fair.
So he was not in the top 5. He rode all the way till 2nd place.
Yeah.
And he fought hard and he was racing so well.
Yeah.
He said that they did some changes to the bike and he really feels like himself, like his old self again, because, you know, obviously he's the defending champion.
And he did have a horrible crash last week also,
which I was a little concerned because he was already nursing an injury throughout the season.
Very concerned.
And then he had a crash again. Oh yeah, he had a crash last week. And it was good to see that he's feeling healthy and that he's finally feeling the bike. And he made up a lot of time even to Jet.
Yes.
But I also could have seen that maybe Jet was at some point, because at some point there was a 6-second gap. He was like, maybe I'm just going to maintain it. There's no need to push it.
Yes.
Because there's no need, because Jet has ruined a couple of his races in the past for making mistakes. And maybe he was a little bit too aggressive, even though he could have just like, quote unquote, cruise. Like if you keep the same pace, you'll just take it home. So it's really, really cool, however, to see Chase coming to the front, and then our boy
Jason Anderson came up also from the back. Like we mentioned, he had an excellent heat race, and then he was also working through the crowds and through the crowds. And then eventually he was also, I mean, he had a great battle with Cooper Webb as well. They were going back and forth. It was getting quite like the elbows out. Even Chase and Cooper Webb had some moments where there was a little bit of fighting. Maybe some moments were not as intentional as others, but it was very, very much fun to watch.
Absolutely.
But then at the end, really I think it was the last corner. The last corner, Cooper kind of got stuck or something happened, so he fell off the bike. Jason went around him, and then he took the win, took the 3rd place.
So I think he was trying to block Jason from the pass. However, I know that some people were complaining, it's like, how dare he get into the championship fight? But it's like, he has no allegiance. It's not his teammate, and his wife and his daughter's watching, and like, it doesn't matter.
Who
like
doesn't want a third place podium where you also get some extra money?
Yeah, I was like, sorry, no, Cooper, you go ahead. No, that's not how it works. Eli did give Cooper a pass when they were kind of battling, but they're also on the same team, so it makes sense, right? Team orders, listen, you're battling for the championship. I'm not going to give you a hard time, right?
Exactly.
I get that. But Jason has nothing to do with Cooper, and I don't think Jason was at fault for Cooper falling. You could already see that he was kind of tumbling.
Yeah.
And then, like, Jason just capitalized on that, and Jason is, of course, someone who does like to ride hard, too.
Yeah.
And then he made the pass, and he made it onto the podium, and it's really, really exciting to see Jason up on top of the podium again.
Yeah, it was so nice to see. And like you said, his family was there, which was beautiful. There was also a lot of on-track action happening between Hunter Lawrence and Justin Barcia. I mean, it was getting quite not brutal, but it was very intense because the commentators were also saying that Barcia is known to be quite aggressive on the track, which is, I mean, totally fair as long as you play fair still. But yeah, there was a lot of action between the two of them. I was hoping that Hunter would be able to come or pass Barcia at some point, but he ended up not being able to, which is totally fine. I mean, he still ended up coming in 7th, which is still a good result for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it was overall just an amazing race. So much action happening.
Maybe Justin is also a little bit more rougher because I just saw he's from New York.
Oh.
Those East Coast guys. They're a little bit more like
maybe. Who knows? But so now Jet is in the lead yet again with 12 points.
12 points up, yep.
Exactly. Ahead of Cooper. Cooper Webb is 2nd. And then Eli Tomac is 3rd with another 29 points behind Cooper Webb. So the fight is really between Jet and Cooper. There's still a possibility for Cooper to pass Jet. It's going to be a tough one because Jet will not have to have a good race, just the same as Tom Vial.
Well, they have 2 more races compared to the East Coast boys.
Oh, that's true. I forgot. Yes,
because
you're absolutely
we have Denver,
right. Yes.
And then we have
Salt Lake City.
And then the East Coast boys are just coming back for Salt Lake City.
That is true.
So we get the West Coast boys next week again. And then it's going to be the big finale. And I'm really, really excited. Honestly, finding and starting to watch Supercross this year has been a big highlight.
Oh, definitely.
It's what a great sport.
Yes.
I genuinely love it. I can't wait to tune in also to, what is it going to be, motocross? A lot of guys that race in Supercross also race there.
Yeah, so we're going to have the outdoor season starting end of May. Aaron Plessinger is going to be back for the outdoor season. Good. At least that's the plan, as long as recovery goes as well as he wants to.
Yeah.
So that would be nice. I wonder if I haven't heard anything about Ken, if he's gonna be back, but I think his break is quite
because he did break like several bones.
Yeah, so maybe not.
I don't know, and it's also was just like 9 days ago or something like that.
That's
where true. Aaron has been out for a little bit longer.
Yes.
And I also read Cactus Tiger in the comments said that Kenny is not last year only did 1 motocross race, and then he did in a different different sport. So there's options, right? I just hope he will be back next year for Supercross.
Yeah, I would love to see or follow him for another season. That would be a lot of fun.
But honestly, like, don't sleep on Supercross. It is so awesome to see that literally all 3 championships are still being fought out up until the last races.
Which is so nice and refreshing.
Yeah, very refreshing. And it's also that's really the only thing that we wanted. We didn't, because Jet went on like a winning streak for a hot moment. We didn't want him to run away with it. If he wins it, like, I'm happy for him because he's obviously done an excellent job, and it's not easy coming in as the rookie, and the expectations were really, really high on him. And but I just didn't want him to run away with it.
Agreed.
You know, I didn't want him to.
I like that Cooper is making him work for his wins.
Yeah.
Or
vice versa.
Yeah, of course. It's not just all for Jet Lawrence.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really excited to watch the next couple of races, including having the West Coast boys back to see how things turn out on their side of the world. I mean, it's just the US, really. But yeah, let us know what you think. Do you guys have any favorites for the next race or the next 2 races? Do you have an idea how things will pan out?
For the sake of the championship, I will not put my hat on anyone, because I put the curse on everyone that I liked is out. I was talking to a coworker. It's like, all of my drivers and riders that I like are out. All of the teams that I like outside of racing support are all losing. Don't make me like you. I will ruin it for all of us. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Yes.
Like and subscribe. And as always, we will be seeing you guys
here tomorrow
at the Daily Racing Show.
Bye-bye.